Cavan Community Radio.
Local issues, local voices. Cavan Community Radio, 97.4 FM.
Hi folks, you're listening to Resilience Radio on Cavan Community Radio, 97.4 FM, bringing you all your local sustainable issues. Welcome to Cavan Community Radio on 97.4 FM. You're tuned in to Resilience Radio, guiding you through the next half hour with your host, Daniel Downey. Today we're going to be talking about fracking. That's right, that contentious issue, hydraulic fracturing, more commonly known as fracking. So, to start us off, we're going to be having a very balanced view, taking in the CEO of Tamboran, the company that wants to start hydraulic fracturing process here in Ireland, in our local area. And this is Mr. Richard Moorman, CEO of Tamboran. Yeah, so we're talking to Richard Moorman, and he's from Calgary in Canada. And so, Richard, what's the story?
All right, well, no, originally I'm from Saskatchewan. It's a rural area, prairies, lots of farms, lots of communities there, small towns.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably not till I was 22 or so before I lived in a city with any more than a few thousand people.
Mm-hmm.
But these days I do call Calgary home. It's a center of a lot of the oil and gas activity that we're trying to do now in many parts of the world.
Okay.
And Ireland is kind of first up on our high hopes list for being able to bring a very good project forward.
Yeah, very good, very good. So, speaking of the project, I know it's been quite contentious. There's a lot of heated arguments and debates surrounding the issue. So, what do you want to do? What do you envisage as the future project?
Sure. Well, let's be very clear. We're not arguing. Yes, there's lots of heat, there's lots of arguments out there, but we're not arguing back.
Okay.
We're not trying to change people's minds. They're entitled to their concerns, their opinions. Our job is to get the information out. What we want to do is begin to develop the project. We have to understand, first of all, what is here in Ireland, in the vicinity of the North Leitrim area and West Cavan, for example.
Yeah.
So we're trying to understand. There's been gas drilled for the last 50 years. Is there any way this new technology using hydraulic fracturing can get that gas out cost effectively?
Yeah.
If we can see our way to do that, then in about 15 months, once the EIAs, all the environmental impact assessments, et cetera, are done, then we would ask for planning permission. Now, that's probably going to be a 6 to 9 month process of consultation. I would expect 2 consultation rounds from the government agencies. People like the EPA are not going to be in any hurry. They want to make sure that everything's been covered off properly. So we expect it'll be nearly mid-2013 before any kind of operation could happen. Again, we have to do it right, so it takes however long it takes, but by mid-2013 we hope to be able to drill the first 4 exploratory wells. If those 4 are unsuccessful, unfortunately the project ends, as has all drilling in the last 50 years onshore. But if it works, then the potential is that we could see as many as 1,000 natural gas wells drilled. Now, these would be drilled on highly efficient pads, but nonetheless, there would be probably somewhere in the area of 80 to 100 different well pads spread across North Leitrim, West Cavan, and of course, the Northern Ireland area in Fermanagh.
So, what do you see as the positive impacts of this? What benefits do you think can the Irish people, both North and South, gain from this?
Sure. Well, the big one I've seen is taxes. You have a much higher VAT sort of rate here. In Canada, we're 5%. Here it's 21%. So for sure, we're going to be paying a lot of that. With an onshore project, everything you spend is in the country. So you have to be taxed on it, whereas the offshore projects don't pay.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, there's an immediate benefit there. Also, because it's onshore and local, we have to use local people. You have to be able to drive to your office every day. You can't run these things remotely. So we're talking about in probably 10 to 15 years of drilling success, having ramped up to having to have over 700 people directly employed for the next 30 to 50 years after that, looking after the well facilities, water cleaning, water treatment, looking at environmental monitoring, all the things that you have to do to prove you're safe and be safe every day. And so that's where the impacts are huge. Obviously, if the project is highly successful, the taxation rules vary, but in the Republic, for example, very importantly, resource companies pay double corporate tax. So we would pay 25% minimum. If the project is so successful, then it goes actually all the way up to 40%. But that's a nice problem to have for everybody.
Yeah. And are you quite happy with this region? How do you find Ireland? Is it?
It's no doubting it's one of the most beautiful places I think certainly I've ever been.
Excellent.
I drove the valley from Manor Hamilton to Glen Farm. Well, truth is somebody else drives it because I'm used to being on the wrong side of the road, so it's just safer. But the valley is so gorgeous. You know, the bottom line is the people here, I think, are very good. They are very well educated. They want jobs. They don't like what happened, you know, in the downturn any more than Western Canadians, and so the chance really is to bring something that can bring some good to those people.
That's excellent.
But no, I'm thrilled by the people of the area. These are real people, you know. Rural people are solid people. They're used to keeping their eyes on the job in front of them, not daydreaming it away. And that's exactly the kind of people that are needed to run a project like this so that nothing goes wrong.
Excellent. That's great. Richard, thanks very much.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, thank
Lovely.
you. Appreciate it.
Okay, very interesting. But to have a bit of a balance now, folks, I also approached one gentleman at the meeting, and Mr. Ireson is a local resident in the area. He's from Fermanagh himself, and he's quite worried about the fracking process, but I'll let him speak for himself.
Richard Ireson.
Richard Ireson from Enniskillen.
From Enniskillen, Ireson. I'm not a scientist, but I have loved science all my life, and I try and rationalise everything that I see around me.
Yeah.
Okay? Evidence I look at, I try and sit on the fence, I try and sway one way or the other, listen to the evidence, try and determine whether that evidence is a valid source, who the source is the source likely to be a vested interest, has somebody funded a report, if they have funded it, is there a report that says the other side of the story? I try and balance, and I look and then I form my opinions based upon the evidence that I see around me. I've just said this to Richard Moorman, okay? I've come to these meetings in the hope that he could convince me that what he had to say had a grain of truth in it. Yeah. And I told to him face, I don't think he has. Yeah. He has not given me sufficient grounds to change my position. I'm firmly against fracking. I'm not firmly against development. I am very much for, I'm out of work myself at the moment, and I'm looking for gainful employ. Yeah. And I come from Fermanagh. Okay, well, I obviously don't originally come from Fermanagh, but that's where I live now. Okay, so proper environmental development, which is going to give us revenue, which is going to bring money into the area, both into Leitrim and Cavan and Monaghan and Fermanagh. You know, it doesn't matter where you are. We need to get income coming in.
But it has to be sustainable.
But it has to be sustainable. It has to be environmental. Okay, because we only rent the land and the space that we're in from our children. Okay? Our children and their children and their children's children will look back on this time and they will either thank us for making a stand, or they will, what's the word to use? I don't know. They will not thank us if we don't make the right decisions.
Perhaps they'll choose stronger words.
They might choose stronger words, but at the end of the day, we have to look at rational decision. We have to look at the way that developments take place. We can't ignore the fact that the industry historically is a very dirty industry. We can't overlook the fact that the process that Tamboran are proposing has never been done before. Anywhere in the world, not even by Tamboran's own people. Tamboran have not, to my knowledge, extracted a cubic foot of gas in the 2 years that they've been in existence. Okay? So we have to look at the history of the industry. The industry is a dirty industry, and you don't have to look too far to find that any way that you look. Okay? So it's going to take an awful lot of convincing that these people are going to do the job cleanly. I don't believe it.
As I understand it, there's either a suspension of drilling moratorium or a complete ban of hydraulic fracturing in New South Wales, in New York State, Quebec, Karoo District of South Africa, and France is a total ban, an absolute ban. And they're just a few examples.
Yes.
So if this industry has doors slammed on its face, how do they expect us to open doors? How do they expect to convince, let's say, for example, the 72,000 Cavan people that the council represents, when they can't convince the 68 million French people that decided to not have this industry on their soil?
It's a very good point, well made. It's a very good point, well made. What worries me is that we're dealing with issues that are far, far bigger than we're addressing at these meetings.
Yeah.
Okay? The directive for gas shale exploration didn't start with Tamboran. It has started by an invitation. It has started at government level, and it is there that we have to start looking.
Lovely, Richard.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, let's break this up with a little bit of a song, and we'll be back to you right